everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Homeschool Voices. Have you ever heard of Charlotte Mason? If not, check out today's video. It's amazing to me that a lot of people don't know about Charlotte Mason because her ideas are really important and really helpful, especially for the new homeschooling parent who's trying to figure out their own personal philosophy of homeschooling. Charlotte Mason was a British educator who lived from 1842 to 1923, and she advocated for a more child-centered, literature-based approach that focused more on big idea thinking rather than rote memorization of facts. Charlotte Mason was really famous for saying that education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life. And to me, this packages a lot of big ideas in one short little sentence. When she says that an education is an atmosphere, what she is saying is that you should not try to structure the child's environment to be childish and kid-friendly and bring everything down to their level. Rather, Mason would say that you should use what is available in your child's environment to educate them. So you would have the unschooling advocates such as John Taylor Gatto and John Holt. They would say everything in life is educational, and you will hear a lot of people say that today. I don't really think that's exactly what Charlotte Mason meant. I just think that she meant to don't overlook teaching moments in your life, because there are a million of them, and you don't have to try to go out of your way to bring things down to their level and make it kid-friendly. Mason would say that education is a discipline, meaning that you cannot really have an education or achieve a great education without discipline. And literally what we think of as discipline, you know, getting up at a reasonable hour, having the discipline to actually read and to do work. And that is, in her view, is going to be imposed by the parents or taught by the parents. And it cannot be ignored. If it is ignored, you're not really going to have a great result. I think this is an area that a lot of new homeschoolers have a lot of trouble with because they sent their kids to school. The teacher was providing that discipline, but not just the teacher, the social pressure of the group and the kids, and your kid didn't want to act too different and be too much of a pain in the butt, because they would stand out if they did that, and it would be very, very socially awkward. So the whole environment provided a certain amount of discipline. So when you bring your child home, you've never had to work on that discipline, and you can't expect it to happen overnight, but it is something very, very much worth working towards. You will see benefits in all areas of life, not just with education, but it is an essential component to having a good experience as a homeschooler. Lastly, Mason would say that education is a life, meaning that a child needs a banquet of ideas to feast upon, and that you cannot just narrow down their education to U.S. history, world history, biology, chemistry, and math, and you're done. This is where literature-based education comes in, and Charlotte Mason advocated for a literature-based education. She advocated for reading living books. That means real books. That means not textbooks, but real, engaging books that are not dumbed down. And she advocates for that, and that to me is really important, because how do you have enough ideas that are engaging unless you're reading real books? I don't even think it's possible. So she would say that the human mind and the human spirit need that. The human mind needs ideas, and it feeds on it. It's like the food for the mind or the soul, however you want to think about it. And it's almost a parental obligation to provide that for our children. Mason is also famous for saying that education is the science of relations. And what she means by that is that everything is interconnected. And I absolutely love this. This is something that I have always thought. I always thought it's weird that we compartmentalize subjects so much. So when you read one book about the Civil War, and then maybe you read a book specifically about Abraham Lincoln, all of the stories in each of those, you'll just take those two books, they start to connect and make this little web of information in your head. So the science of relations, like everything is related to everything else, and the more engaging, interesting, useful material that your kids read, the more that they will start to make all of those connections. And even though that you're not focusing on having them just memorize facts, they will memorize so many more facts than if you tried to focus on them memorizing facts, because now all this material is sticking in their head. Whereas before, like if you were just having them memorize facts, like it's basically what happens in public schools. Basically, kids read very dry textbooks, and essentially they're asked to memorize a set of facts that they perform, so they can perform well for a test. But there's not engagement, there's not thinking that's happening. It's just memorize this thing that we told you is true. Don't question if it's true, don't think about it, don't engage with the ideas. Just memorize it. It's true, we said it's true. And that's what's happening. And that is not the kind of information that your brain can remember. Your brain needs useful information or interesting information, and it's neither. So as soon as that test is over, most of that information just leaves the child's brain. And it's true. Just think about yourself and your own experience. Everyone has experienced this. Most of us know, and we laugh about it. We joke about it. We know if we were going to take a middle school history exam, we'd all fail. And the reason why is because of how it was taught. Now, some of us have endeavored as adults to try to learn more, and the more living books that we read, the more engaging, interesting material that we read, the more that we learn and the more sticks. There are just a couple of things about the implementation of Charlotte Mason methods that I don't always love. One is the idea of twaddle. So twaddle is a fun word that Mason used to refer to books like Captain Underpants or Geronimo Stilton or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Just sort of dumbed down, simple books, lots of maybe potty humor, just stuff that's not really making your kid a better person, that sort of thing. The idea is that it's very subjective, though. I mean, there's a lot of very simple books that for the younger child can stimulate really wonderful conversations, and it can help you to talk with your child about really big ideas. So I don't know that I love that idea. And also, Mason was living in a very different world. We're living in a world where we have video games and movies and TV shows and lots of easy entertainment. Because I think she thought of twaddle as easy entertainment. Well, I'm kind of fighting in this world, in this society, in this culture, to get my children to be readers. And I'm winning the battle, but it is a bit of a battle when you have all this easy entertainment available at your fingertips, and all your friends are always watching movies and always playing video games. So I think living in this world that we live in, I'm not sure that a little twaddle is such a bad thing. I would rather my child develop a love for laying in a bed cuddled up with a book, and I really don't think that it's going to jeopardize my child's ability to later on develop a love for better material, higher brow material, more academic material, more thoughtful material than Geronimo Stilton. But that is her concern, is that if your child is exposed to too much twaddle, that they will not have an appetite for, Emily Dickinson. The other thing that I noticed in the implementation of a Charlotte Mason education, not necessarily in line with her philosophy, but just the way that I see people implement it, is that there's a lot of use of very old books, almost exclusively sometimes. And for me, I don't have a problem with old books. I like old books. I mean, if I started this when my kids were 5, it might have been great. It might have really worked out well. I'm not sure, but it might have. But my kids, if I said they could only read books from 100 years ago, I don't know that they would love that. It's a very different style. For example, it literally can take a third to a half of the book of exposition for the book to wind up, for the inciting incident to even happen, before it gets going, basically. So to my kids, that's boring. And I think if you lived in a slower paced world, that wouldn't be boring. You'd be just happy to sit there and read for 3 hours before anything really happens. But for my kids, that's hard. I think, try it. If you have a 4-year-old, try to do that. But for me, I don't know that it has to be like that. Even if you're strictly following her philosophy, even if you don't let your kids read twaddle, I still think that you can read more modern books. For me, exclusively reading old books is sort of not a great thing for our family. It just wouldn't work. Ultimately, those are small criticisms, and if you are intrigued by this, though, and you want to learn more, Charlotte Mason has written a few books. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on Audible. If you want to watch your budget, there is an app called LibriVox, 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 and you can get free recordings because her books are in the public domain. They're old enough to where they're free, available for free. So you can get those. And also I have something that I provided in the description for free. It is a planner page. Actually, there's several planner pages. You pick the one that works for you. There's some directions that go with it, and it will just help you to implement a literature-based education for if you're like me and you feel like you need to look and say, hey, my child read this, 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 and this. They spent this much time reading. It's kind of a balanced amount of information. You know, there's a little science, a little history, a little literature, a little poetry. So that planner that I have in the description, that'll help you do that. So you can feel really confident. And the cool thing about this form of education, this literature-based education, is what I call it, because it's a little bit different from Charlotte Mason, is that it's easy. It doesn't require a lot of work from the parent. Now, if the parent is a real gung-ho type personality, you can do all kinds of creative stuff. You just don't have to. And for me, that makes all the difference. There's a lot of things I want to do in life, and if I am spending all day, every day, doing homeschool stuff and running my kids to soccer practice, dance, or whatever, then I don't have any time. So this approach just allows you to still have other interests and do other things other than be a homeschool mom. The other thing that I really love about this method is that you can do it practically for free. If you want to do it for free, you probably could do it for free, or for very cheap, maybe like $50 a year per child. And the one expense that you would probably have to have is a math curriculum, but you can get math workbooks at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon pretty inexpensively. You don't really need a fancy curriculum. You basically just need some workbooks, and if you don't know how to do it, look it up online, go to Khan Academy. They explain everything math on Khan Academy. It's actually really easy. And then for all the other subjects, you read books. And then for the writing, you do writing, but it's not complicated. So check out the planner page. There's instructions there. I am going to write a book that provides a lot more detail about my philosophy, which is really like a modern twist on Charlotte Mason. If you are interested in that, be sure to fill out the contact form that's also linked to in the description below. So there you have it. Charlotte Mason is a great person to learn about, and my modern take on that is a literature-based education. I hope that was really, really helpful for you. If you have any questions, please tell me in the comments below. If you have any opinions or thoughts, tell me down there too. If you like this video, please click thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please click subscribe and the notification bell next to it. In the meantime, happy homeschooling and have a great day.